Hi everybody, welcome to IndyCar on the 12th of April 2019, the day that we should have left the European Union. So welcome to Brexit Groundhog Day, I guess. Here we are again looking at another long delay for Brexit, and we're no further forward in our own ambitions to become an independent country. So what happens next, and what is actually going on in social media at the moment? My own channel here at IndyCar, my own page, has been attacked, it seems, by the Facebook gremlins, if you like. Whoever it is at Facebook who decides these things seems to have had a go at IndyCar overnight, and what they've been doing is anytime a thread opens up from an IndyCar comment or from a video, all of the comments made to me in which I'm supposed to reply or react to are hidden, every single one of them, with only one or two popping up on the feed that I can actually read. I would say something like about 80% of your comments are being hidden from me, so I can't react to whatever it is you're saying to me. Now, call me paranoid if you like, but this is the first time I've ever seen Facebook actually deliberately come into my pages and start effectively making all comments invisible so I can't read them. Now, although I'm still broadcasting to you on Facebook and I'm still using a live stream and you can still hear me, I have no idea what it is you're telling me. And to me, this smacks of some kind of sabotage. It's a technical form, a subtle form of sabotage, which doesn't allow me to interact with any of you properly. So, very suspicious. It's the first time it's happened at this level. I've had a few instances over the last few days when selected comments have been hidden. And normally selected comments could be hidden if there is a restriction on sorts of words that are used. For example, swear words, anything with a swear word in it might be hidden from me and I can then unhide it. But what's happening now is the comments are hidden completely and I can't unhide them. I can't make them visible to myself. So although people have commented to me by the thousands, I'm not allowed to read any of your comments, no matter how polite or well-mannered they might be. That's the first item of news today, a bit of sabotage deliberately aimed at my show, which I think is coming somewhere from the British government, or at least they're influencing Facebook in some way to try to sabotage what I do here. So that's the first thing. The other thing that you'll know from watching the news recently is about Julian Assange, the co-founder of the WikiLeaks page. Now, the WikiLeaks page was set up by Assange and his partner with the idea of disseminating information which had been already leaked by other people so that everybody could read about the acts of sabotage or state-sanctioned murders or whatever else these large countries, these secretive governments were up to. And of course anybody who does that kind of thing is painting a huge target on their backs, and Assange knew this. And in 2012 an arrest warrant was issued for him in connection with an alleged sexual assault in Sweden. And because of that, while he was in London, he decided that his only safe option to avoid extradition to Sweden, which incidentally might then have led to him being extradited to the United States, his only option was to go and ask for political asylum at the Ecuadorian Embassy in London, which he did, and he's lived there for 7 years, and things were okay. I mean, it's not ideal. You're basically living in a prison and you can't go out. And Assange has been trying to maintain his WikiLeaks site and his other interests online from there. But now what's happened is the Ecuadorians now have a new president called Moreno, and Moreno is in the pocket of Donald Trump. Donald Trump has promised Ecuador's new president, that there will be loans made to Ecuador. They're going to put American petrodollars into Ecuador, but one of the costs of that would be to kick Julian Assange out of their embassy in London. And to do that, Moreno appears to have come up with some kind of plausible story that somehow or other, which is never proved, that Assange's WikiLeaks had posted some pictures, some holiday pictures of Moreno and his family, which had been taken 5 years ago, and that this was an invasion of privacy, and therefore he was going to boot Assange out of the Ecuadorian Embassy. So the Ecuadorian ambassador invites the British police, the Metropolitan Police, to come in and arrest Julian Assange, who incidentally is also wanted on a warrant at the moment for skipping bail, because he was on bail in London at the time of this alleged sexual assault. So he was on bail, but he knew that he would probably be extradited to Sweden and then into America if he didn't skip bail. So the British police now had a reason to arrest him. It took 6 men, burly men, to carry this one poor guy out of the building, head first, literally dragged him by his arms and legs, face first, into a police van in full view of the Russian television media, who the only people who actually saw this. They had camped out. I don't know how they knew it was going to happen, but they knew it was going to happen, and they were the only people that got photographs and movies of Assange being dragged out. He's been arrested, and now he's been re-arrested on an American extradition warrant as well. So he was right to fear things like that. He was looking very scared when he was dragged out. So another man who, to a much greater extent than anything I do here, is trying to spread the truth about what went on, particularly in Iraq. And one particular video which WikiLeaks released, which showed an Apache helicopter gun crew deliberately shooting a group of men, in which there were 2 plainly and obviously attired Reuters reporters and cameramen among them, just attacked them and machine gunned a whole lot of them. And this video was streamed by WikiLeaks. It was released, much to America's great embarrassment, that the Americans had gunned down Reuters news agency employees who were just basically photographing what was going on in Iraq. And that's one of the other reasons that he's not going to get any kind of fair trial if he goes to America. So I'm desperately worried about Assange. I don't know what will happen to him, but I don't think whatever happens to him, it's not going to be good. Many people have suggested that in the next few days he will mysteriously commit suicide in his cell, which is the British way of getting rid of troublemakers when they're saying the wrong sorts of things. And what do you know, it'll be a suicide. I don't know if that's true. I mean, to be fair, the British police are doing this by the numbers, and Sajid Javid, who made a statement to the Commons yesterday, was very specific about the facts that Mr. Assange was given full access to every kind of medical treatment, including psychological, incidentally, that he desired, with his own doctors present, all the rest of it. He's been given full access to everything he needed under his human rights. So the British government's been very meticulous about how they deal with Assange, but they'll be glad to get rid of him. And if the Americans do succeed in extraditing him and the British courts allow it, then God help Assange when he gets to the US, because he will never see the light of day again. Anyway, moving on. So the cause of freedom of speech is always fraught with dangers. Mine are very minor by comparison. Just having comments deleted or hidden from my feed is a very minor inconvenience to me. But that brings me to something else at the end of this broadcast. Now, I'm not, I have to think very carefully before I make this part of the broadcast. I don't often overtly criticise a major decision by the SNP government. I'm going to do it today, and I know that Wings Over Scotland has also covered this in the last 24 hours. But I am mystified at the behaviour of the SNP in relation to Brexit at the moment. They have backed themselves into a corner by suggesting on the Andrew Marr show that the SNP favoured a second referendum on, not on independence, but on Brexit. And this comment has now forced the SNP into following through on this comment, that the SNP was now committed to helping the other parties to make sure that Brexit didn't damage the United Kingdom. And the upshot of all of that is, if they succeed, the ironic thing about this is that the SNP will have proved that the union of the UK actually works, and that Scotland is listened to, and the smaller parties pardon me, are listened to. And therefore, the whole reason for having an independence referendum is moot, because Britain is working perfectly well, and the SNP has just proved it by taking part in this event, this cause to have a second referendum. Now, you could take a view on this that the SNP doesn't have any choice in the matter, but the point is the SNP has boxed itself into this corner, and we're now in a situation again where anything to do with Scotland ending the union with England is now a slave to the fortunes of Brexit again. And again, we're in a situation where after we were promised time and time again, in the next few days we'll hear about when the independence referendum is, in the next few weeks, in the next few months, when it's clearer, when the fog is cleared, when this, when that, excuses, they've run out of them now. We know what Brexit is going to be. It's going to be a compromise. And it's going to be a compromise a bit like Mrs May's deal, and it is going to happen inside, well, before October. But it has to really happen well before that, because the British government does not want to fight European elections. That would be the ultimate humiliation, to have to go through the pantomime of electing officials to an organisation that you're trying to get out of, and that those representatives will be in their places for only a matter of months before you leave. It would be pointless. So to avoid that, the UK government will want to have this all tied up by June at the latest, I would suspect, because that's when the Euro elections happen. So now the SNP's got itself in a bind. What do? How are they going to rescue this? At the moment, all kinds of, like myself, very loyal supporters of what the SNP is doing have completely lost faith in everything that they're doing now. They blundered here. This is a mistake. It shouldn't have been made. The SNP should have stayed out of the Brexit argument completely and just said, watch this happen, watch what the British parties are doing to the UK. We'll have a referendum when we can see how bad this mess is going to be. Instead of that, we're contributing to the mess. And we're contributing to the narrative that the British political system works because the SNP has had some kind of say over Brexit. Again, self-defeating rhetoric has boxed the SNP into a corner that it can't get out of. So now it's time for Nicola Sturgeon or whoever is advising her to get their finger out and stop messing around with Brexit and say, we're going to name the date for the independence referendum right now, because Brexit is going to happen before October the 31st. We don't have much time to organise our referendum before then. It really needs to happen in September now in order for us to have enough time to organise it. 16 weeks is about the minimum amount of time that the Scottish Government and all the officials need to organise an in-house, Scotland-only referendum, which is advisory. It doesn't need to have the sanction of a Section 30, or that's never been necessary, we know that. So why is the SNP not doing this? They are making themselves look like the conspiracy theorists have said. They're making themselves look complicit in a British government conspiracy to confound the independence movement completely, to shatter it, to stop it in its tracks. And this is a critical moment now for Nicola Sturgeon. I don't think she can push this any further, because personally, as a Scottish voter and as an independence campaigner, I can't stand this any longer, and I know the rest of you are sick of it as well. It's time we all contacted our SNP MPs and MSPs and voiced this concern now and said, now is the time. If you don't move now, the independence movement is going to fracture and it will never be able to reform. And the British government will have succeeded in making the SNP an accomplice to this act. And it will confirm the conspiracy theorists who have suspected for the last few years that Nicola Sturgeon is now part of the British establishment. And that is not what we want. What we want is for Nicola to take the decision and to show that she is not in the pay or a puppet of the UK state just because she has joined the Privy Council. I've never seen Wings Over Scotland come out with such an angry piece about the SNP's behaviour as it did last night, and I am completely baffled at the behaviour of the SNP at the moment. They have not just sat themselves on a fence in this Brexit argument, they have impaled themselves on a fence post that they can't get off of. And they're either going to be a part of the Brexit disaster, which seems to be what they're planning to do, or they're going to get off that fence and say, now is the time for the independence referendum. We have gone as far as we can pretending to help the UK to get out of this mess, because it has to have been a pretense, because if it hasn't been a pretense, then all of the conspiracy theories are true. And I don't want to believe that. I want to believe that Nicola is going to call the independence referendum. And I'll tell you now, I can't see people waiting any longer. I've been getting emails from countless people saying, is this true? Are we really not going to get an independence referendum? Are the SNP really going to make sure that Brexit happens safely? Are they going to prove that the British state, the British Union works because the SNP has been involved in the process of Brexit and making it more successful? Because this is what's happening. The SNP has said for ages that Brexit would be a disaster and they had wanted no part of it. And now they've created a part for themselves in it by saying they want to have a second referendum on it and trying to sell this to the rest of the British public. Scotland doesn't have a role in Brexit, and creating one for ourselves just involves us in the crime. And to involve ourselves in the crime defeats the end of becoming an independent country. We just prove the British point, that we are involved in Britain, we are helping to make decisions about Brexit, and we are complicit. And that's something I can't stand personally, and I don't want it to continue. I know this is not perhaps the kind of broadcast that my audience normally would expect me to make, but these are not normal circumstances. I'm being censored now. People like Julian Assange are going to a fate probably worse than death in an American jail if he's not careful. And my hopes of independence are faltering now because the party which is supposed to be giving us the chance to vote on it has sold it out in favour of helping England to get out of its Brexit mess. That's not our concern anymore. We didn't vote for Brexit, remember? Ian Blackford has said all along Scotland didn't vote for it, Scotland doesn't want it. So why are we helping them to arrange it? And that's the problem at the moment. We should stop helping them to soften the blow of their own self-inflicted injury and decide to separate ourselves from them. And making stupid decisions in England, why involve yourself in those stupid decisions? Let's do the sensible thing. Let's end the union with England, renegotiate a new treaty with England so that we can trade together as we always have done and keep a border open, and not be bound by the decisions of 17 million people who live in a different country, because that's what's wrong. And for the SNP to involve themselves in this is probably the biggest political blunder they could make. And that's really my point today. They're on the point. Nicola Sturgeon is on the brink of making the biggest political mistake in Scottish history, in losing the referendum because she has allowed Andrew Marr to talk her into saying something about giving people a second vote on the referendum. Second vote on the Brexit situation, instead of a second vote on independence. What happened to her? Why are we helping them to get Brexit? Why is she not helping us to find independence? There's an open goal in front of the SNP. All they have to do is kick the ball into the net. The goalkeeper is looking the other way. And yet we are organising it so that the entire defence of this football team can stand in the goal. And meanwhile, our goal of independence is at the other end of the pitch with nobody in it, nobody guarding it, and we are helping the opposing team to defend their goal. It's stupid, it's pointless, and it's not what I'm in favour of, and I don't think anybody in the independence movement can understand why this is happening. That's it for today, okay? It's a lot to think about, but if I were you, I would contact your SNP branch, your MSP if you have an SNP MSP, your SNP MP if you've got one of those, and write to them and say, stop helping to get around Brexit and start campaigning and get this independence referendum off the ground. And do it now before the whole of Scotland turns against you, because they're on the point of mutiny at the moment. See you later.